Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur, and this will be your preview for Tottenham's London Derby match against Fulham at home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We'll be talking about Marco Silva's tactics over at Fulham so far this season, discussing the Danger Man as well for his team as well as for ours in this big game, and then we'll also be talking about the key battles that I think you should be keeping an eye on for this massive match. But before we get into it, don't forget to smash that like button, get your score predictions in below for this London Derby, and let's get going. Of course, we get into the cold hard facts first, and with the cold hard facts, it is going to be mostly this London Derby related. With Fulham, our record against them in the last 13 Premier League matches is of 11 wins, one draw, and one defeat. So they've actually been quite a comfortable team, I think, for us in the past in these sort of London derbies. But I think it is a much better Fulham this time around, you could say, especially a much more improved team. And I think they did quite well in the transfer market as well. Spurs have won their last 4 London derbies at home. Last doing this between 2009 and 2010. Be absolutely massive to keep this streak going, especially when you have an opportunity like a team at Fulham at home. Hopefully we maybe have a Crystal Palace, maybe a Brentford coming up. It'd be ideal to keep the streak going. I think, for Spurs kind of momentum as well as kind of, for the fans kind of vibe right now. Fulham have scored 2 or more goals in 3 out of 5 of their Premier League matches so far this season. They're a much more attacking Fulham that we're probably used to. Not really Scotty Parker sort of Fulham. Marco Silva's is a bit more attacking, and we will get into that later, everybody. Don't you worry. But the head-to-head record between the two clubs as well as the two managers is quite interesting. Spurs' last 5 results have all been wins apart from one draw. Most of them, I believe, have all been Premier League matches, except for that 3-0 win away from home was actually an FA Cup away match. And then I believe that 1-1 draw was under Jose, and that was a Premier League home match. So the last 5 results have been quite favorable to us. We've only kept 2 clean sheets in that process, and they've all been, you could say, sort of narrow wins, maybe apart from the 3-0 and the 3-1 there. So maybe not the easiest of kind of results, but we did get the results. Conte's first match actually against Fulham in this one, somehow he's avoided them during his days over at Chelsea, and it is also Conte's record against Silva is also not really very high as well, or he's only played 2 matches, 2 wins, 0 draws, and 0 defeats. His 2-0 win against Hull City was in the Premier League back in 2016, 2017, of course, with Chelsea. And then he also had a 4-2 win when Marco Silva was over at Watford in the Premier League in 2017-18. So we beat him with 2 separate sides as well. Marco Silva's record against us is 0 wins, 3 draws, and 2 defeats. He is looking for his first win against us here. His team has been in fine form, and he has a lot of players fighting for him, I think, this time around. Different sort of momentum, different sort of vibe, I think, over at Marco Silva's Fulham. He's definitely going to be itching for that first win. But let's talk about the team news, everybody. Just let me bring it up here. With the team news for Spurs, we have a few players returning, and I promise this time, Romero and Skippy should be back, everybody. I don't know why they kept, alluding that they were back in training. It seemed like they were back in training, seemed like they were available, but Conte still hasn't used them yet and still hasn't started them yet. Maybe just as precautionary measures. Quite smart of him, if you ask me, considering the squad depth, but I do expect Romero as well as Skippy to play some part or at least some role. I think Bentancur is out with a concussion. Of course, he missed the West Ham game. I'm not really too sure on the concussion protocols. I didn't really do much research into it. He could be out for this one, so that is going to maybe be a big miss. But I would like to see Basuma sort of kind of, bounce back from his previous display, which he kind of didn't really, make himself look too good, I would say, in the second half. Lucas as well is probably going to be out for this one with some sort of kind of mysterious tendon injury. I think Brian Hill could be back. I think he was back in training by the looks of it. And then as well, I think, Højbjerg, at least from what I could see or from what I've heard, is probably available. I could be dead wrong, though, about that, but do let me know. Those are your Spurs news. We're going to go into Fulham's team news here. Fulham, I think it's Harry Wilson is out. He's out with some major knee injury. I don't think he's even played kind of a minute for them this season. And then Manor Solomon, their new signing from Shakhtar Donetsk, who I actually really rate, is actually out as well. He only played a few minutes for them in his opening game against Liverpool, and I think did show, a bit of promise, but was actually out with an injury right away. So those two will be out for this one. So big kind of creative players, you could say, are gone. Unfortunately, everybody, the stats with Jack is obviously being released to you a bit late. That is on me. And then as well, I accidentally deleted some of my tactical animations for this one. So major fault on my part. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to start first with maybe how Spurs play, and then we're actually going to talk later maybe about Marco Silva's Fulham. So Spurs, I think this is how we could basically, see a sort of, successful attack going for us. I think now that we have Christian Romero back on the ball, that is going to be a huge plus for us because we will have much better players now in possession. Conte also said he was going to be doing a bit of rotation here, so perhaps Longley could be given a start. I think what we've been asking for here on the Irish Hotspur is basically just much better possession when it comes to the center backs. We need much better ball playing center backs in the squad. We do have them in the case of Christian Romero and Longley, but recently it feels like Ben Davies as well as Sanchez have been quite poor. Don't get me wrong, Dyer I don't think has set himself apart either, but it seems like he's sort of going to be a mainstay no matter what. I think we'll get a lot more of the ball in this one, kind of like we did, against West Ham. Fulham have conceded possession to plenty of teams this season. They have kind of been quite dynamic in their attacks, but they've sort of had to, in certain moments against teams, concede a bit of possession. In fact, I think it's only against 2 teams that they've had more than 40% possession so far this season. I do think we'll be forced to get the ball out wide, though. Fulham do like to sort of defend quite narrowly, so again, this could be a frustrating one for Spurs fans if we do find the ball in the likes of Emerson. Again, it feels like he's sort of kind of struggling for confidence, but there, again, could be a lot of squad rotation. Doherty could come in, we might see something different. Jet Spence could come in, and we might see something different, but there might be moments where you could see the wingbacks, maybe having the majority of the ball in this one. But hopefully, with the likes of Richarlison coming in, a bit of new energy could be very tricky for Spurs. And I feel like those runs that he'll make through the middle, similar runs that Sonny would make in that 3-4-3, could be very helpful. He could be playing through the middle as well, alongside Harry Kane, playing more like a second striker, if anything. So I'm very excited to see how Richie will go in this one. How will Spurs defend? I think what we really have to look out for is Pereira and Mitrovic's sort of movement through the middle. They're exceptional in their hold-up play, at least in my opinion, when it comes through the middle. If I looked at their heat maps, Mitrovic and Pereira almost right on top of each other at times, and they really do like to get the ball into them kind of in those middle areas of the pitch. He does also like to show up on the back post as well, Mitrovic. It could be any of our defenders that might find themselves sort of backpedaling, and then they'll find just an absolute large man trying to climb on top of them and trying to climb over them to win the header, and that could be very dangerous for us. Look out as well for some counterattacks via De Cordova-Reid as well as Cabano. I do think they have been sort of missing some players from, maybe injury and whatnot in that sort of, winger area, but Cabano and De Cordova-Reid have been actually quite successful for them, at least so far this season. They do like to play a bit faster than maybe Scott Parker's side, less kind of long ball. They play through the fullbacks, play through the wingers, try to get it into Pereira as well as Mitrovic. They are probably a bit more of an exciting team to watch, and they play a much higher line, actually, Fulham as well. So when you actually talk about how Fulham play, it is quite interesting. So they kind of sort of attack as sort of a 2-4-1-3, where the center backs, of course, being the deepest ones, but the fullbacks will kind of join alongside the 2 midfielders, kind of forming almost kind of like a 4, line shape there, kind of in the middle. And then they do have Pereira, sort of the operator in the middle. They always try to get into him. If Pereira's not there, then Mitrovic might drop deep and sort of fill in that space in the middle. They'll always have someone available for that sort of hold-up play, you could say, through the middle of the park. And then they have the likes of De Cordova-Reid out wide, and Cabano, who have been at least decent hard workers for them. And once they maybe get Mano or Solomon back and maybe Harry Wilson, they might look a bit different, but that's who I anticipate to be starting in this one. I'm not sure what other wingers they've signed or if they even have any other wingers, and they do set up in sort of a 4-2-3-1 if I haven't mentioned that. So that's what's really to expect from Fulham, and they've been quite expansive and, quite different from, years past. So it is going to be quite interesting. Just last to mention, Joao Palhinha has had a good season for them. He's been sort of their new kind of ball-winning midfielder alongside their sort of kind of tempo setter, you could say, their kind of playmaker in Harrison Reed, and then also Andres Pereira, like I said a few times, is also a big creator for them. But let's go on into the Danger Man for Fulham, and I think it's not going to be a big surprise who their Danger Man I have lined up for. Let me just bring it up on screen here. And we have, here it is here, Danger Man for Fulham is going to be Alexander Mitrovic, everybody. While Fulham have scored 8 goals so far this season, 5 out of 8 of those have come from the big man Mitrovic. One of those 8 was even an own goal from Brighton's defender Lewis Dunk. I must say I'm a huge fan of Mitrovic, despite him playing for the opposition. I think he's shown for a long time that he is a very, very skilled big man, despite, his large, sort of kind of unathletic at least appearance. He is actually quite, agile on his feet, has a lovely touch, dirty finish at times, just so clinical. I am a big fan of Big Mitro. And he's shown that, this season that he, if maybe under the right headspace, under the right manager, involved in the attack enough, he can be a real weapon for them. Like we said, he's been basically their main goal scorer, their main attacking outlet, at least for the time being. He has the most shots in the squad with 20. The next highest player is Decordova Reed with 8, and 10 of those 20 have been on target as well. So he has the most shots with 20, and then also has a 50% shot on target accuracy. I think that's quite deadly. This man is an absolute monster for Fulham. He has the most aerials won in the whole squad, most fouls drawn in the whole squad. He is the most targeted player in the whole squad, receives the most passes. He has the most players dribble past in the whole squad as well, for big man as well. 13 players dribble past so far this season. Most shot creating actions, which kind of, puts some respect on his creativity skills. And he also has the most passes made under pressure, which puts some respect on his hold-up skills. But that is the danger man for Fulham in this one, everybody. And then as well, we're going to talk about the key man for Spurs. And the key man for Spurs is going to be Richarlison. Richarlison, I do expect to play in this one. I'm really excited to see what he has to offer. I think he could be very, very dynamic for us. He has been brilliant every time he's come onto the pitch. I think he'll be really hungry for this one, especially since he wasn't given too many minutes against West Ham. I do expect him to be given the start. Like I said before, Fulham have only really had 40% possession or more, I think, twice this season. The rest of those times it's been less than that. So Richarlison could benefit from being able to be involved in the play a bit more. It won't be as much of a counter-attacking display, at least I hope, from Spurs, especially at home. So he'll be able to have plenty of the ball, be able to get into the flow of things, and I think that'll be really useful to him. I think he's already shown what he can bring to Spurs, but, it'd be kind of unfortunate if he was going into a game like Liverpool or something where we might be without the ball for a really long time. Fulham's average defensive line is also actually quite high, considering they're only a recently promoted team, even despite them playing against Wolves this season. While we also played Wolves, their defensive line was actually, at least seemingly, a bit higher than ours, and we even had more possession that game as well than the likes of Fulham when we played Wolves. So it does show that they actually do play with a bit more of a daring high line, and I feel like someone like Tim Ream, despite playing very well, could be taken advantage of, as well as Tosin Adarabioyo. But let me know let me know what you think of this key man for Spurs. We're going to go into the key battles to end off with that. With the key battles, we have Eric Dyer versus Mitrovic. Mitrovic likes to play majority through the middle. Of course, he might show up at the back post as well, but I feel like Eric Dyer will be mostly responsible for Mitrovic. We'd love to see Romero be able to step in and kind of help him out there, but I think Eric Dyer is going to have a lot to do with Mitrovic, which does worry me. Moving on as well, we have the likes of Richarlison versus Tim Ream. This could be very interesting. Like I said before, Tim Ream has had a very good season so far, but Richarlison, those runs through the middle, very powerful runs through the middle, could be too much for him. Harry Kane alongside João Palhinha. João Palhinha is, like I said, that big ball-winning midfielder for them. He likes to protect that back two of Tim Ream as well as Tosin Adarabioyo, so he could be responsible, I think, for sort of disrupting Kane as well as kind of disrupting those passes into Harry Kane. So there will be a bit of a key battle, I think, in seeing how he'll kind of disrupt the service into Harry Kane. And then last is going to be Basuma versus Andreas Pereira. I want Basuma to redeem sort of himself from that sort of second half performance against West Ham. Andreas Pereira is that source of creativity for them. Basuma is a great ball-winning midfielder, but he'll also be a source of creativity for Spurs. I think there could be a bit of a battle between those two about how they sort of control the park and how they sort of control maybe the chances for their team. So big battle there as well. But everybody, let me know what you think of this Stats with Jack. I apologize for the lack of animations. It's just kind of things just didn't go my way this time. So I do apologize, but it will be better next time around. Do leave that like button down below, though. Do give me your comments as to what maybe anything I missed or maybe things, I could have probably given a bit more detail to, as well as also everybody, do feel free to give me your score predictions down below, like I said before. But as always, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust, and I will be seeing ya.